Hey! So this video is going to be why gear matters. If you checked out my previous video, I talked about my origins with this creative stuff a little bit. I gave a summary. There would be a lot to go into. If you guys want to hear more of that, let me know. Whatever, hit me on Instagram, hit me on YouTube, hit me on Facebook, hit me somewhere and let me know, and I might go a little bit deeper into that. But the question, does gear matter? Well, Mango Street, as I alluded to, made a video about this very topic. I want to put this disclaimer out here that I forgot to put in the other video. Hopefully nobody sees that and gets upset or misunderstands me. But none of these three videos are going to be about bashing Mango Street, because that's not what this is about. These videos really are about integrity, understanding how to take criticism, and being helpful. That's it. The age-old debate. Does gear matter? Specifically with photography and videography, we have two camps that one side is saying, you need gear, you need the gear, you need the best gear, you need the best gear at all times. Pretty much the things that some of those channels that I unfollow were pushing all the time, constantly, nonstop. Gotta get this gear, gotta get that gear. Several reasons. One of them may be because they're on the more technical side of the art that we're talking about doing. Another reason may be their sponsors that they have, and they have to push those brands, and that is going to fall into the third video in the series. But then you have the other side which says gear isn't all that important, it's what you do with the gear. The thing is, like most things in life, it's not binary. It exists on a spectrum. Gear is absolutely important. It matters. Let me explain. When I got my first camera, it was a Rebel T6i. I've talked about this a little bit on the channel already when I made my upgrade. It was with the little bit of knowledge that I had and the little bit of time between I decided I was going to get a camera and I was ready to get a camera. With the research that I did in that time frame, it was a pretty good camera that I could afford. That was pretty much the criteria that I was looking for at the time. I just needed something decent that I could use. Now, if you follow me on other things where I talk about people doing creative things, probably I've said it the most on the Black Culture Geeks podcast. If you want to do something, do it. Get it done. That is what's most important. It's most important that you get out there, you get the experience of doing it, and you finish. Now, there are going to be roadblocks. There are always going to be things you can improve on. That's the point. It's the journey. The journey is the huge part of all of this. However, you're not children, and I'm not going to treat you like you are children. Gear matters. When I had the T6i, there were certain limitations that I had. There were certain limitations that I had with quality. There were certain limitations that I had with time. There were certain limitations that I had with things that I had to think about way harder than what was currently being taught on these channels that I speak about. The Peter McKinnons, the Mango Streets, the Jared Polands, all of these channels, even the ones that I felt weren't doing that toxic stuff and the ones that I kept around, some of the things, not all, of course, some of the things that they were teaching, some of the techniques that they were teaching didn't 100% match with the equipment that I had available. So if you're talking about your ISO, for instance, for anybody that's not into photography, ISO, a very, very quick explanation of it is it controls the amount of light that your sensor sees. It's more complicated than that, and there are other things that control the light, but that's all you need to know if you don't know anything about photography, just to get this example. They were doing tutorials where they were talking about using the ISO to a certain level, raising it to a certain level. And with the camera that I had at the time, those tutorials didn't jive with my reality. My old camera was terrible at low light, absolutely terrible. So either I had to spend more money to have more light, or I was limited to the light that I can shoot in, or I would get these super noisy photos that you have to doctor to hell in order to get something that is usable. That is a problem that only gear will fix. Here are some reasons why gear actually does matter. The creative process. Remember the example I just gave with the ISO? How certain low light shots were pretty much impossible with my old camera? Well, that messes with the creative process because there are a bunch of factors that I have to think about, absolutely have to think about, that have nothing to do with the creative side, the storytelling of my project, whatever that may be. When you compare that to my new camera, I don't have to worry as much about having bad lighting if I'm doing a vlog, let's say, or when I'm doing photo shoots in my studio. I don't have to worry about, oh crap, I might have missed the exposure a little bit because of whatever scenario popped up. I can't bring it back because this has such low light. No, with my new gear, I don't have to worry about those things. I can set up, have in mind what I want to do it, and just, it's not an issue. I can free my mind to pay attention to the creative side of things. Another reason that's tied directly to that is time. So if I'm sitting here doing this video with my old camera, my lighting scenario is a lot different. Also, how far the camera away from me is a lot different. That's a whole nother rabbit hole that we're not gonna go down. But my lighting scenario is a lot different. My audio scenario is a little different, not a lot. But these are things that matter. And if I don't have to take time worried about all these other things, I know that I can have formula. This is what I have to do in order to create this type of content. That's standard. I have this down. So boom, all right, I can get it in, get it done, get to the next project, because I might be doing this for money. For instance, if I have a photo shoot with clients, I have two speedlight flashes. One of them is a cheap flash, one of them is a more expensive flash. If we're talking about a one picture scenario, they are equivalent. They're equal. However, if we're talking about a photo shoot scenario, one of them is only manual, and it overheats a lot all the time, which reduces the cycling time. Cycling time is just the time that it takes from flash to recharge to you're able to get a full flash again. So with my more expensive one, it has an automatic mode that allows me to move around, and it'll adjust the amount of the flash that it's going to send out of the flash. I don't have to stop every time and take a chest shot, or stop every time, and even if I don't need to take a chest shot because I've learned how this works, I still gotta make the adjustment. No, I don't have to do that with the more expensive or better gear. Time time is very important, again, when you're making money, because if, on top of time, in the photo shoot scenario, it makes you look like you don't know what you're doing. If I'm sitting here fumbling, it's one of the reasons I stopped taking the one that overheats out of this controlled environment in the studio, because I'll take a picture with it and then it'll be on this thing where it has to take a little bit longer to recharge. And now I'm sitting there and the model's looking at me like, what's going on? What's wrong? Makes me look a little bit crazy. With the better one, I don't have to worry about that. So that's another reason where gear actually matters. Now, the one that we don't even have to explain, quality. Simple. Better gear has better quality. Now, you have to know how to use it. You absolutely have to know how to use it. If I could go back and start with this camera instead of my first camera, if I had that choice, I probably wouldn't. I probably would still start with my first camera because it gave me so many skills and let me know what I have to do in these different scenarios, and it made me a better photographer. I would not be the photographer I am now had I started with a camera that was as good as this one back when I first started. I think that's factual. I 100% believe that. Now let's keep it real. I don't have a huge audience on my YouTube channel. There are several reasons for that, and again, that's probably the next video. But this is how you introduce nuance to a scenario, a hot button argument that people are having that is making some people feel inferior, that is deterring some people from doing what they might want to do. Bottom line, do not let somebody deter you from doing what you want to do because they say you have to have the best of the best in order to be any good. That's BS. It's simply not true. You can still put out good quality content. There are some photos that I took with my old camera that I prefer to some of the photos that I've taken with this camera. And there are several reasons for that. But to say gear doesn't matter is being disingenuous. Especially referring back to Mango Street in their video, they spent a good 2 minutes giving all of the reasons why gear matters and still came to the conclusion gear doesn't matter. I'm not questioning their intentions. I'm simply explaining how it looks. It looks as if you came to that, you not even came to that conclusion. You said that that was your conclusion because it fit into the parameters of what the conversation is. The conversation is binary. You felt like you had to pick a side. That's not really necessary. If we're trying to be helpful to as many people as we can be helpful to, and we're displaying integrity, then we can understand and recognize when a scenario calls for us to inject some nuance into an argument. So that is it for the second video, and definitely be on the lookout for the third video in this mini response / new series that I'm doing. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.